guys on this team that I think can step up at certain points. Like even Brooks can get in there and make some great shots in the paint and create a little bit even. But who do you see as the key player that needs to step up? Because somebody's going to need to step up more offensively. And is it not Franz?
I I think it's Hunter. I really
Think it's just
think
Hunter.
like
All right.
if you go back and look at what could really change for this team, kind of find a new life, it would be getting back to him just going for 20 points and just really controlling a game inside. We saw that for weeks early in the season, and it's just a different world. I think like you've played in the NCAA tournament, played in the Big Ten. I wouldn't say like games are officiated much closer, I would say, in the tournament to an extent, and that I think that could really help Hunter after just what he's kind of been through these last month of just banging against some of these Big Ten defenses.
Yeah. Yeah, that is true. I think he can feast. Every time I see him, like he goes out like the 13-minute mark, 12-minute mark, and then the second string guy for the other team comes in. Like, damn, I wish he would stay in because that's like 3 easy buckets right there, or some type of creation. I'm hoping he is that kind of guy though, where he's very determined. He's always fired up, and anybody in front of him. I mean, maybe Kofi, the other guys in the Big Ten, maybe give him a little scare, but I feel like he's going to come into this game just ready to completely eat anybody alive. But we'll see. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, that seems like all of a sudden people are going to be like, man, remember we were talking about Hunter Dickinson just dominating games, and we haven't really seen that for 2 or 3 weeks. I think a week off probably helps, just kind of rest the legs. They were playing every 3 games, 3 days basically. So that's where I would look for what could change, just based on the circumstances.
Yeah, and right before we started this recording, speaking of Hunter, there was Hunter had the now infamous tweet for the week where he's saying, what did he say? Like, heck of a meal from the NCAA. And it's like cold potatoes. What?
Impeccable breakfast.
Impeccable breakfast. Yeah. And somebody came out with, I think Theo Mackey just came out with an article and a little write up. And basically Hunter came back and said, well, Juwan told us that we just got to suck it up and, accept it and move on. So you won't hear anything about this from me anymore. But, how is the bubble life? Have you heard anything else? It's got to be kind of miserable at times.
I mean, the other thing Hunter said was that he hasn't been outside since Sunday. So that's interesting. I think I saw video. Some players are like, I think they're letting them have basically like recess in the baseball field. Like I saw a video of Texas players playing kickball like in the middle of whatever the baseball field is there. So
that's good.
It's just a weird situation. I really think though it masks just what a weird situation it's been for a lot of these kids all year, right? It's not really what anyone signed up for, to come play college basketball and sit in your apartment all the time and basically quarantine yourself. So yeah. I think it gets more publicity now. It's probably more extreme, but at this point, I think a lot of these kids are used to it by this point. And I mean, they had to do this similar thing when they shut down for 2 weeks, right? So it's not new really to anyone. It's just a tough spot all around. Well, I mean, when you're at the NCAA tournament, just the whole scale of it becomes obvious too. Like you're in this made for TV setting, right? And you're just sitting there in your hotel room and then the lights come on and you go play a game for 2 hours and then you go back. It's just like a weird environment all to begin with. So it just magnifies all of those weird inconsistencies that are especially notable when you're in the environment.
Yeah, it definitely exacerbates like the whole myth, like feeling around like college hoops where people are always like, man, I bet you had the most fun on campus. But I'm like, if I went out, it was very rarely. We had, everything was monitored. Like these guys are used to it at least. And I think maybe that month where they were off is a good test for them and they're kind of used to it. And this team seems to be focused, at least. I think it's more of just a confidence issue. And I don't think the focus is going to be an issue there. So it'll be fun to watch, but I get tossed up because it's like, yeah, this is $1 billion business and you got cold potatoes and eggs, but at the same time, it's like, well, the hotel workers are stretched to the max. They got to deal with all these kids and all these people. So it's like just a strange situation where, just accept it and move on. But I don't know. I like cold potatoes. I don't know about you.
The eggs were looking rough in that picture. I also think that, those were just like, I think the meal situation changed. It was just the first 2 days. I think they had like a stricter quarantine where it was like a hard quarantine when they do their first round of testing, and then the teams can bring their own food in after the fact. So I don't think they're eating that the whole the whole week in the tournament. It's just one of those weird spots where I don't really know what else you can do. And I mean, it's even worse for these Big Ten teams that have been in Indianapolis since last week and they just hung around, right? So
Yeah,
it's a long time in a hotel.
no, for sure. I want to talk to you more about the tournament as a whole. And I'll start with the East region. Like, do you see this as a very tough region? I see this as a very wild region where like so many different things could happen. I see Colorado as a really good option to come out of the East for whatever reason. All these one seeds throughout the tournament are kind of up and down all year. There's teams ranked in the or exceeded 2 and 3 that historically would never be. So like, what do you see in the East, like potential candidates coming out of there?
I got to pull up a bracket here. I didn't know we're going through the whole
I put you on the spot.
The whole tournament. You're putting me on the spot.
I know. Otherwise, I wouldn't be asking this, but I've been like filling out brackets and looking at it and dissecting it like I know what I'm talking about. So I'm like, this is like the only time that I'll ever know anything about the East region.
I don't think there's a team in the East, like just talking about Michigan's path. I think there's not a team that you'd say like, wow, Michigan's not going to be favored against, right? Even without Isaiah. So I do think it's a little bit like, do you really trust Alabama? Do you really trust Texas? Do you really trust Florida State? Like, I like Florida State. I think they're probably should be better than they've been all season though. So it's hard to get really excited about them as a team. And the ACC's just kind of been down all year. So what do you really make of that? I don't think there's anyone that you're like, man, I'm penciling him into the Final Four, especially when you add in the Livers injury for Michigan. It just kind of puts the whole bracket as a toss-up. Alabama plays an extreme style. I don't know how that'll really work. They haven't really been in the NCAA tournament playing this way. So tough to really say. You could see I could see a lower seeded team making it out of this region though, for sure.
I want to talk to you about Hoops and where you started it and how you started it. You said like 08, 09. Where did you get this idea? Because I want to get into some of the things, because we pay attention to it. So I'm curious of like where that all started from.
So way back. So I had like started websites and stuff a lot when I was a kid. I was a sophomore at Michigan, I think, when I started it. And so basically just threw it up there because basically I thought there wasn't really a lot of Michigan basketball coverage out there to begin with, especially like particularly insightful Michigan basketball coverage. So that was kind of the idea behind it. Then it sort of just grew from there and became this weird thing where everyone was trying to like figure out who on earth I was. And it kind of went sideways from there.
No, I mean, I'll never forget the top 5 plays and going after the game, checking Hoops. Like, did I make it? When I thought I had a top 5 play, I didn't make it. Like, come on, Dylan, what the hell are you doing, man? This was a hell of a play. And then sometimes you put me on there too much. And I'm like, but you were fair. It was fair and balanced and just a very different perspective. I love the video breakdown. It was like way ahead of the time. You see that way more often now.
The best 5 key plays ever.
What?
The best 5 key plays video ever was Zach Novak trying to take 5 charges in a game and fouling out. That's the all-time one.
I tried to go back and look at some, but they're like wiped from the site or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a long time, but yeah, I don't know how those are all holding up. I probably got wiped off YouTube or something like that. But
if you ask Zach, it's still like the most angry he's ever been on a basketball court. I think I'll never forget like the 5th one or the 4th and 5th one. He takes a charge, they call a block, smacks the floor like I think he's gonna break his hands.
You could really hear his reactions and all those. Like, it's not even an empty arena like it is this year, and you could just hear him yelling after every call.
It was too intense. I totally forgot that you put all 5 of those in 5 key plays. That's one of the funniest things.